Hey everyone, I'm Jory. With me as always we have...
I'm Kainoa.
And this is the Hack and Chat podcast. And I didn't do an opening because I actually really want to talk about something right off the dot. This week has been a crazy week for Android.
Yeah.
And I know you have an Android. I don't.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit bummed, but not after our first story. So HTC's been having a couple of issues with their Android keyboard, specifically. It came out this week that they pushed an update that actually pushed advertisements onto the keyboard.
So what, like every time you press spacebar, it wants you to buy apples or something?
You know that place where the predictive text is?
Yeah.
Like right above there, it's a banner advertisement.
Oh.
So like most of the screen gets taken up because it's already the keyboard and the advertisement.
Yeah.
And people are furious.
Well, yeah. You said they accidentally pushed an update. Are we sure it was an accident, or are we sure they didn't go, oh no, people hate it? It was an accident, guys.
I'm 100% positive it wasn't an accident.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. You don't even have advertisement code in your standard keyboard.
Yeah, it's like, why would that code be there? It's like, yeah, some code monkey copied over an entire block that adds ads that make us money, and then...
And it just happens to perfectly fit.
Yeah, it worked. It didn't, like, snap the phone in half. Yeah, no, that was intentional.
They came out with a tweet today, just today, saying that it was an accident and they're working to remove it. So it hasn't been removed yet, and there's no way that just happens.
No.
But there is one really cool thing that's happening for Android. It's starting next year. Runescape is coming to Android.
Interesting. Is that a good thing? Do we care about... Because RuneScape to me feels like kind of a dead game.
Yeah. Its community got really big about last year.
Yeah, because they started the thing where if you paid, you could play old RuneScape.
Yeah. But a lot of people even still play the new one, too.
I've heard people play the new one, but I've tried to play the new one, and it's... Unless you're paying money, and therefore are also able to play the old version,
yeah,
I don't see a reason to play the new version, and even then, the new version is so far divorced from old RuneScape.
Really?
It is. It's more like a new Runes.
I've played it.
Yeah.
So I played it a couple of times. One time, the first time I played it, I was absolutely positive it was the most different experience from RuneScape.
Yeah.
Like, it feels different graphically. Somehow the controls just feel different.
It's more like I hate to say a modern MMO because it's not. It's still kind of moored in those old, like, Ultima style, like, top-down thing. But it feels like a more modern MMO now.
How long did you play for?
Not super long. I will say that.
I played for my second time, I gave it a good 3 hours, which is more time than I should have. And after getting through the opening sequence, it feels almost the same. Except for the fact that they put even more things behind a paywall. Yeah.
So, once again, do we care that RuneScape is on phones?
I'm a little interested, because Jagged has been doing some really cool things lately. And
Apparently
I'm hoping
their RuneScape card game is actually really good.
I'm so intrigued in it. It's way different than most card games.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of battling your cards.
So, more like, Talisman or whatever?
I don't know what that is.
Board game.
Oh, okay. Probably.
You might have gotten a copy of it through something. A lot of people have copies of Talisman.
Yeah, so you're set up in a line, and there's, like, 4 maps of each, like, 4 cards you can put down. And you've got your hand of cards, and your cards either allow you to attack yourself, or do something to either team. Like, either you or the other person. And so there's a lot of strategy of, like, trying to figure out which cards you want to use on either yourself, because you get gold if you beat them, but they also lose shit if they die. So, it's kind of neat, and then at the very end, you use everything you've collected throughout the game to try and fight each other.
Weird.
Which I think is a nice change of pace compared to all of the Hearthstone clones coming out.
Yeah, there definitely are a lot of Hearthstone clones right now. I think... Never mind. I was thinking of something else. I was like, I think WoW is having a new card game, and then I was like, but they already have Hearthstone. I did hear somewhere that they were having a new card game, but that can't be true.
Yeah.
They wouldn't.
Are you sure you weren't mixing it up with Witcher's Gwent coming out?
I am aware that Gwent is also a thing.
That looks bad. I hated playing that in the game.
Apparently, a lot of people, like, only played Gwent in that game.
That's weird.
They liked Gwent more than they liked the game.
That's actually almost understandable. I really don't like that game.
I don't mind the game. It just feels really, generic. It feels, at least from what I played, it feels very much like, it's lacking a lot of soul. Which is weird, because everything about that game tells me that so much more thought was put into it, and yet it feels so much less empathetic than, like, even something like an Elder Scrolls game or a Fallout game.
To me, it has the Final Fantasy problem, where it's like, you have to spend 20 hours to get to a good part.
Right, which is a huge issue. I mean, I did end up leaving the starting area, so I probably put, like, 20 hours into it.
Same.
And I would say that it doesn't feel like it gets a lot better.
My favorite parts in that game was the story. Not necessarily the main story, but, like, all of the
little other things going on.
Yeah, and I thought the, like, actual cutscenes were a nice change of pace for an open world game. Good voice acting, and I felt like all of the characters, like, had their places in the world, but mechanically, it feels worse to me than Black Desert.
Yeah, I would say mechanically, The Witcher is just really clunky, and it's an issue that goes back. Like, people say you shouldn't play 1 at all.
No.
And a lot of people won't recommend 2 either, because the controls are so bad, and I don't feel like they fix them entirely in 3, because in 3 there's still so many times that I'll hit a button, and it's very obvious that it didn't work, but it's not really clear why. If it was, like, some kind of animation issue where I hit it at the wrong time, and it feels like if I want to get stuff done, I have to, like, fully stop my character and then do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
And it just feels... It makes the combat feel so staccatoed that it's not cohesive.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
Your players shouldn't have to fight against the rules of the game. Like, unless
that is the game.
Yeah.
If the game was, you are lowly peasant with pitchfork who fights monsters of the darkness, you could have the Witcher control scheme, and you'd feel better about it.
Yeah.
You'd be like, I am a lowly peasant, this makes sense. But you're supposed to be the badass who, at this point has already saved the world twice? I'm not really sure what the story of Witcher 1 or 2 is, but I assume that you've done some pretty major stuff.
It's gotten to the point with me where I don't even... When I say Witcher, I just mean Witcher 3. Like, I've played through at least some of the other 2 games, and I don't even consider them in, like, the scope of The Witcher 3. It's a different experience. Like, it's the same story-ish.
It's the same world.
Yeah.
It's the same characters for the most part, but yeah, it's a very different game otherwise.
Anyway, going back to RuneScape and do we care? I think it's interesting. It's got a good control scheme, I think, for something that's going to end up on Android, because it is just clicking.
It is just clicking. That said, I'm wondering how much they're going to change the game, if at all.
I don't think they are. I'm assuming it's going to be like a web player just built into...
Yeah, which makes me wonder how well that's going to work, because obviously they're doing it on Android, but Android has the most widely varying, like, specs to the phones, and as a result, I think they're going to run into an issue where a lot of people are going to try to play RuneScape, and they're going to be like, RuneScape doesn't run on my phone, though.
RuneScape runs on pretty much everything, at least on the low settings.
It does, but, like...
I just, like... Maybe they'll do some patches just to make it more optimized for the phone. I assume you have to, basically, at that point.
Yeah. Well, for example, my mother also has an Android, and she's not really tech literate. She's whatever. She can use a computer. She's better than my dad. But, at one point, she was like, my phone's running slow. Can you look at it? And I was like, sure. So I take her phone, I immediately go to all open tasks, and she has every single app on her phone open. And I'm like, that is why your phone is running slow.
I think that's a problem with the Android architecture.
Yeah, and fine if it's a problem with the architecture, but it doesn't stop the problem that a lot of people aren't even aware necessarily that they have, like, open tasks running in the background. And so they're going to go to run RuneScape, which is a fuller game than most of the things that are on Android, and they're gonna realize my phone runs like shit, and this isn't really, like, functionable. And that'll be most likely due to their own misunderstanding of how their phone works, but at the same time, that's really gonna hurt Jagex regardless in terms of this release.
Well, I'm wondering if they can also do better chunking, but that's technical. Yeah. I had a small deal with an Android phone for a while. I think I had it for about a year, and that was the least pleasant experience I've ever had with a phone. I'm not a tech unsavvy person.
Right, obviously.
I'm a computer science major in college, and every single thing about that phone felt like it was fighting me. I hate the fact that, like, all of your apps stay open, actually processing in the background. I can see why that might be helpful, but, like, unless you're specifically searching it out, it's kind of hard to figure out how to deal with that. And I think that's an issue that Apple has, too, with their iPhone. I think it's, like, double-clicking the home button to figure that stuff out.
Oh, yeah. Well, my Android has a button that's my task manager. So, like, I have 3 buttons on this phone, and one of them brings up all of my open tasks.
Well, it seems to me like the better solution to that is don't have them actively open. Like, you can have them passively open.
I think it should be app-based, because, like, certain apps need to be open in the background. Like, I had an idle game on there for a while, and I would like that to be open in the background, so it's doing its idle game thing.
Right.
But, yeah, like, if I close YouTube, especially with YouTube's whole, like, we won't run in the background, period, unless you pay us thing, I don't need YouTube to keep taking my resources to, like, buffer a video that I'm not watching.
Yeah. But it also is hard for the developers, because they all want their apps to run in the background, so it's like, we'll remind you it's here already. So.
Well, and that's something I don't have. I think I only have one app that pushes me, like, useless notifications.
Not even that, but just, like, when you open your task manager, seeing that the app is open is reminding you that you have the app.
Yeah, I guess.
It's good for advertisement, even if it's absolutely useless for everything else.
Yeah.
Do you play fighting games?
I have played a couple fighting games. I don't know how to play fighting games. I'm not one of those people who's like, yeah, let's fucking play Smash and I know all the little tricks and, like, okay, here's how I play fighting games. I've never pressed the block button. But I love them, so there we go.
I press the block button in every game that's not Smash.
I do it in tutorials, because in tutorials they're like, you need to block, and I'm like, okay, there's the block button. I will quickly dispose of that information.
Well, speaking of Smash, actually, they're planning on live streaming the competition. The
Evo?
I believe so.
Evo is normally live streamed, isn't it?
On Disney XD.
Oh, that's maybe not the best idea.
Yeah? Like, I can see that being a problem language-wise. I mean, they're pretty good at getting rid of that. Like,
they're gonna have to... They're not gonna do it live then, right?
I think they are.
That's a bad idea, because there was that one year that the guy got up at the end and just screamed, "Fuck you, I'm the greatest!"
They're pretty good at, like, muting that. Like, they've got, like, a 30-second delay, so they can get everything done.
Oh, yeah, because that's a requirement. That's an FCC requirement now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, with a 30-second delay and Disney on it, they'll probably be fine.
And they'll probably have some good commentators to just cut back to in case anything happens.
Oh, I'm sure.
How was, it was Dota that was streaming on ESPN?
Yeah.
How was that?
Do you know... That was more than 2 years ago, right?
It was a long time ago.
Yeah. 2 years ago it would have been a problem, but, because they had some issues at their international that year. But they've actually been doing... because since TI won, their big international one, they have been putting a lot of money into the streaming side of things. So when ESPN came to them, I don't think it was an issue. And nowadays, I think they could do it even better. Because now what they have, they've got this amazing setup, the last year that I watched, where they have they have like 5 commentators. They've got it set up kind of like ESPN, where they have 5 commentators in like a booth. And then they have 4 commentators on the floor in sets of 2. so they can switch back and forth between those people.
Oh wow!
And then they have they have that set up for each language. So like they also have a Russian restream that is 4 people on the floor that they can switch back and forth between 2 sets, and then another 5 guys in a booth.
That's insane. Do you know what the cost is for all of this?
Oh, it's incredibly high. It's in the millions of dollars.
Whew.
They blow out the Seattle Convention Center whenever they do it. And they've started going international. It's gotten so big that they still do their international at the Seattle Convention Center, but they've been doing they did a Manila, they went to Shanghai, they went to Kiev.
Wow.
They've been traveling all over the world doing what they're calling their major series, which is supposed to be like their competitive series for the rest of the year, because the international is once a year. They wanted more stuff, kind of like League of Legends has. And that helps people qualify for the big major where they can win the big money.
But when it was on ESPN, it was pretty successful, right? Like, it wasn't clearly getting to most of the people who watch ESPN.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. It was on ESPN 2.
Right.
Because if they put it on ESPN 1, a bunch of footballers would have been like, what the fuck? This isn't football.
To be honest, if I tune into some a channel I knew specifically with sports...
And it was video games, you'd be pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. But ESPN 2 does a lot of weird stuff, so they were able to offload it on there. I guess the response wasn't good enough to keep it on ESPN, but I remember seeing it, being out at a restaurant, and it was on one of the TVs, because they had it on ESPN 2, and I was like, holy shit, I play that game.
I think Disney, at least for Smash, is going to be a great place to have it, because most of the people who watch Let's Plays are children.
Are children, yeah, definitely.
And so that's a perfect, already targeted audience.
And it's of the fighting games, one, if you chose any other fighting game, it wouldn't work on Disney, because it would be too boobalicious. It would just be like, wow, that's a lot of breasts.
Or Mortal Kombat, just blood everywhere.
Rip out his spine, show it to him.
And then he does the little Mickey Mouse ears on the side of the screen with his spine.
Yeah, exactly. So that wouldn't work. But, Smash is a great venue for it. It's colorful.
And it's got one of the biggest audiences.
And it's got one of the biggest
all the
audiences.
stars kind of align for it.
And it has a ton of, well, I guess that doesn't really matter. I was going to say it has a ton of Nintendo characters, but I guess there's not a huge overlap anymore.
That's actually kind of weird.
Because there used to be a lot of cartoons of those characters.
Yeah.
And now there's not so much.
As far as parks go, Universal just got the rights to make a Disney, or a Nintendo Land.
That'll be fun.
I think that's going to be interesting, but it's kind of weird that Disney's willing to partner with Nintendo.
I mean, you can't... They can't hold it that much against each other, because ultimately, there's no side of this that it doesn't serve, right? Like, Nintendo's getting a ton of publicity, so they're like, sure, player game.
I don't know, because after what Nintendo's done to Let's Players...
Right, but now they're getting a cut, which was always their issue.
Yeah.
And they're probably getting a huge cut. And then Disney is like, we can get this programming, and if they're doing it from Evo, if they're live streaming Evo, that was going to happen anyway. So it costs them very little overhead to just bring in cameras and stream it. The thing that I'm interested in is Evo is a multi-fighting game tournament event. It's not just Smash. So I'm wondering if they're going to do other fighting games, if they deem them like within Disney's, wheelhouse in terms of this is acceptable, but...
As far as I heard, it was just a Smash event, which means it might not be Evo.
Yeah, that's possible. I wouldn't be surprised if Disney was like, we're going to do our Disney Open or something, where they are doing a Disney-specific tournament.
I think it'd be... I just think it's going to be cool that we get more representation on TV. Because I feel like there's been a whole...
on the main Disney channel?
Disney XD?
Disney XD, so basically the main Disney channel anymore.
I feel like that's the knockoff one. That was always where the weird shows would go.
Yeah, but anymore I don't even hear about Disney Channel, I just hear about Disney XD.
I mean, we're also fairly out of the loop in that area.
Sort of. Is Steven... No, that's Cartoon Steven Network. Universe is on Cartoon Network, and Gravity Falls was on Disney.
Is that Disney?
Yeah, it was. It was on Disney XD.
Alright.
So, ultimately, I think it's cool. I'm wondering... So you were talking about, oh, well, kids watch Let's Plays, but do kids really care about, like, fighting game, like, hardcore fighting games?
I don't know, but I'm assuming that it's just having a video game on TV with, like you said, no overhead. They basically don't have to develop anything.
Yeah.
It's a good place to start to see if there's...
It's a good place to start to see. I want to see ESPN try an esport again. I see why they chose Dota over League. I think Dota is easier to pitch to an older audience because it's got such a more, I would say, a darker color scheme than League of Legends. League of Legends is very cartoony. And Dota's a little cartoony, but it's definitely a little more on the realistic end of that. And so I think they looked at those two games and were like, we should probably just do Dota. Also, I'm not sure how happy Riot would have been about somebody cutting into their streaming money.
Yeah.
So Dota, I think, was a good option for that. But maybe try League, just because it's a bigger game, and see where that gets them. Because I do feel like there is a place for esports on TV.
I don't know. I was having the same thought of you a couple minutes ago, and then I remembered about G4 TV, but the
problem was G4 tried to do a bunch of variety content. Like, they didn't stick to the fact that they're a video gaming channel. And also, a lot of the stuff they were, like, putting across was very dude bro-y. And the problem is, like, dude bros who play video games don't care a lot about video games. They want to play their series when it comes out, whether that's FIFA or Madden or Call of Duty. And people who are in the games don't want to be approached from that marketing angle. And so I think it was just aimed at an audience that didn't exist.
I want to disagree with everything you've just said.
Really?
Yeah. So I used to watch a fair amount of G4 TV.
Really?
It was like the thing I would watch when I came home from school. And their variety content was some of the best content they had on there. I will agree with you that they didn't focus a lot on video games, but they started dying around the time Let's Play got big.
Which makes sense.
Because they're just... It's not the perfect format for video games. Or video game content. I just don't think TV, like, in its static set, can compete with the freedom of being able to do stuff on the internet.
Yeah, on demand. And smaller groups being able to, like, iterate way faster than a television show possibly could. I was watching some of Door Monster's old podcast content. And they were talking about... Door Monster, by the way, is a YouTube channel that does skits and stuff that are usually based on video games, but not always. I don't know if we've talked about them on
I advertised them at the end of one of these.
Yeah.
Watch them, they're amazing.
They're good. I was watching some of their content, and they were talking about their production cycle for video, and they were like, we can iterate through content a lot faster than most mainstream companies can because we're so small. We can just record straight through all of our dialogue with just the director, like, giving instruction, and then they'll cut it all together. Whereas normally in a movie, you'll actually have people act against each other, and they just don't do that because it's a lot faster to do it the way they do it.
Yeah.
Which is something a major studio would never do, because they'd be like, well, there's a way to do things, and the way to do things is you have people act off each other.
I feel like TV also has a personality problem.
Yeah.
Where... With a TV channel, like, you saw a lot in G4 TV, there were, like, one or two main personalities, and you either had to like them or you got nothing.
Right.
With Let's Plays, it's very easy to find that one person who fits that niche that you like to watch.
Right.
Like that 80-year-old woman who plays Skyrim.
Aww.
It's adorable.
I'm sure it is.
Oh,
look at the dragon!
Yeah, kinda. And you don't have to watch anything that you don't like. And I've been watching a bit more TV recently than I normally do. I normally only watch stuff on Netflix, and it's basically like watching online TV. I can handpick what I want. But when I watch TV on the TV, it's constantly me settling for things.
Yeah. Well, flip side of that, my dad watches TV pretty constantly. And I've talked to him, like, look, we pay a lot for TV. We could pay a lot less if we got Netflix, or because I don't have Netflix or Hulu or any streaming service because I don't have a lot of extra money to throw around, and I would rather be subscribed to Humble Monthly because that's what I enjoy more. But I told my dad, look, TV's expensive. I will go half on Netflix with you, and we'll share Netflix like everybody else in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, no, because I like to flip between the channels. And that's what he finds interesting, which is terrible for the people running those channels, because that whenever their ads come on, he changes the channel.
Yeah.
It means that, like, TV as a format, its primary draw is against its primary money-making function, which is a dangerous place to be for an industry.
Which is why I think the Super Bowl commercials got so big, because people were actually watching them, and they could be sure of that.
Yeah, because nobody is going to tune away during the Super Bowl, or people are going to tune in actively to see your dumb commercials.
Yeah.
Which...
And then it got to the point where, like, people were actually searching them out online.
Yeah, to the point where it was like, now you don't watch the Super Bowl anymore, now you just go afterwards and watch the commercials on YouTube.
I will say, so I've been watching TV, and I've started watching commercials, because I basically see no commercials online. I've got Adblock most of the time.
I try not to Adblock in most places. I have Adblock, but for a long time I had it on a blacklist, so only sites that I blacklisted would get blocked. And that I was using that for, like, if you've ever used a Wikia site and had it just bring your computer to a screeching halt from all the ads. They got rid of the blacklist feature, so now I'm back on a whitelist, but I tend to whitelist just about everything.
I respect that, like, a lot. I can't do that. I noticed this when I was watching TV. I'm starting to get kind of physically sick from watching advertisements.
Really?
Like, it really bothers me. I get kind of queasy. And so I try and keep on Adblock and, like, or keep off Adblock for channels I really like. Once again, Door Monster.
Yeah.
And stuff. But I don't watch them. Like, sometimes...
If you're hitting the skip ad button, they're not getting any money.
No, like, I just walk away.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll click on them, because I know that gets some ad money.
Yeah, sometimes.
But...
it depends.
That's usually my, like, here
Not
I'm
on
making
YouTube.
an active effort. Really?
Not on YouTube.
That's a disappointment.
On YouTube, it's just based on whether or not you watched the ad. If you hit the skip ad button, they don't get money.
Yeah.
But if you watch an ad with a skip ad button, they make more money than they would have made otherwise.
Good to know.
I
always try and, like, for content creators I really like, try and figure out how to make them the most money without shelling out my actual money. So it's good to have tips like that.
I watched a podcast where they were talking about monetization on YouTube, and they said that basically, once you're a YouTube partner, whenever you monetize a video, you get a choice of what kind of ads run beforehand. The longer an ad is, the more money you make. But if an ad's over a certain length, it gets a skip ad button, and if somebody clicks it, you don't get any money.
I will say, I have seen, like, a couple minute or 2 minute ads on YouTube, and if I see that on your video, I'm not watching you ever again. I can't.
I've actually... Here's the thing. That marketing works, because I have actually had a 2-minute ad crop up on YouTube, been like, what the fuck is this ad? And I've actually watched the whole thing, and I've been like, that actually looks interesting. Like, the longer ads on YouTube tend to actually have interesting shit behind them. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have, like, buy my shitty doohickey.
Right.
But sometimes they have, like, a movie that I was, like, totally not on the radar for. One of them was for Logan, and it was, like, one of the better ads I've ever seen. Like, it was just a really well put, like, cut together ad that gave me, like, a really good impression of the movie.
I want to move away from TV.
Okay.
After saying that Shark Week has had the best advertisements ever this year.
Shark Week.
And that may just be because I'm obsessed with Seal.
Isn't that like a running joke from years ago during Shark Week?
Probably.
Because they ran that commercial where they're like, we're releasing the seal back into the ocean, and they push it off the dock, and then a shark jumps up and eats the seal.
Then it absolutely is, because they recreated that scene with Seal.
Yeah.
Also talking about fighting games, like we were half an hour ago, right? Yeah. Have you heard of BlazBlue?
Yes, I have heard of BlazBlue.
They just released a trailer for it. I'm sure you've seen it?
No.
It looks really cool. They announced that Persona characters are going to be in it. A couple of other things I didn't recognize. They look like they're from anime.
Probably.
Which I'm not too familiar with.
saw an anime fighting game on some YouTuber's channel, some like really niche anime fighting game, but it had like every character was from a different series. And I was trying to figure out who they were. I got like 3. I was like, I know that one because they're from another anime fighting game.
There used to be a Shonen Jump one.
Oh yeah, there was a Shonen Jump anime fighting game.
But I think that died pretty fast. But at the end of the BlazBlue trailer, they did that thing that Super Smash has been doing lately, where like it'll cut to black and then be like, wee woo, alert, alert.
Oh.
And then they showed off that characters from Ruby are going to be in it.
Oh.
Which I think is really cool.
Yeah, BlazBlue. Let me like reach back into my memory. BlazBlue, I think, is known for having a lot of cameo anime characters. I think that's like one of their deals, and that's not like their primary thing because they do have like an internal story and like set of characters to it. But I'm pretty sure like they've had a lot of cameos before.
Well, fighting games tend to have at least somewhat of a story going through it, even if they have the cameos. Because I know the old Soul Calibers did, and they had like Yoda.
Yeah, and Link. You could play through the game as Link, which I did.
So I've never watched Ruby, and I'm pretty sure you haven't
I
either.
have not watched Ruby.
But I've been a fan of Rooster Teeth content for a while, and specifically, like, I seriously respect Monty Oum, the guy who created Ruby.
Right.
And he always wanted to animate fighting game characters.
Oh.
So I think it's adorable that it kind of came full circle. It's sad that he didn't.
Yeah, he would have been super stoked to be like, yes, I want to do that, obviously.
I don't think he got to see the game be finished either, because they made a Ruby video game.
Did they?
In-house. They're getting crazy with their production.
Rooster Teeth is an example of, like, a well-run business.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of their content, which they make so much content that I'm pretty sure anyone could find something on their network. But, like, they're from the early days of the internet. Not the early days of the internet, but
machinima and
the
stuff.
early days of video game content on the internet, and they're still around, and they're doing better than just about anybody else.
They're really diversifying, because, like, of course they're doing Let's Plays and stuff now, but they actually started doing documentaries.
Which Valve kind of started.
Yeah.
The whole video game documentary thing.
They're not doing video game documentaries, they're doing, like, actual documentaries.
Really?
Yeah. And of course, they're usually passion projects of people who work there.
Yeah, just like, I want to make a documentary. Cool, send it over to the documentary boys.
Yeah, and like they did one where they go into the depths of professional wrestling, and they actually get 2 of their people to get trained by professional wrestlers, and they actually do like a full ring. And
that's fun.
Someone almost died on that documentary.
Yeah, the thing about professional wrestling is it's like, it's fake, but it's still dangerous.
Oh no, he almost died from pneumonia.
Oh. My point stands.
Yeah. And then they did one where they were getting, like, apparently there's a head massage in India, I think? And they, like, sought out this head massager to get it. Apparently it's supposed to be, like, ASMR, but real, which I guess is just a head massage.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it, but I think it's cool that they're that diverse in their content.
Yeah.
Not to mention their movies, TV shows.
Yeah. Whatnot.
I think they just finished filming their second full feature-length movie, Laser Team 2. Which is okay. The first one was
Yeah.
But they're trying new stuff. Whatever. Yeah. Gotta give it to them. Speaking of kind of fighting games, but not actually fighting games, more like games that you fight in, Marvel just released a trailer for a brand new VR game.
Okay.
You play as Marvel characters.
Okay.
Like licensed Marvel characters. I think you play as Miss Marvel, Rocket Raccoon, and Hulk. Not at the same time, obviously.
Not at the same time. That's just such a... Okay, here's my thing with that. It's a VR game, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't playing as Rocket Raccoon or the Hulk be really, really upsetting just because of how much of a different size they are than you?
I think that'd be really cool, because like they've shown off different size stuff in VR, and it doesn't seem to be one of the things that gives people motion sickness.
Really? I would have the feeling that, like, being the Hulk, I'd be like, I'm way too high up. Like, this is just stressing.
Yeah, I could see that. Do you have a fear of heights?
Yes.
Okay, that would probably be it.
But also Rocket Raccoon, I'd be like, I feel like I'm halfway displaced into the floor, and it makes me feel weird.
Yeah, I think the reason they picked those 3 characters is because they're the easiest to do, like, mechanically.
Yeah.
Because Hulk is just
Hulk punches stuff. Rocket Raccoon has a rocket.
It's just guns. Yeah. And Miss Marvel, it's Carol Danvers, Miss Marvel, for
Doesn't
anyone.
She have laser beams or something? Yeah.
It's just
yeah,
shooting out of her hands. It looks super fun to me as a Marvel fanboy.
Mm-hmm.
I was like hoping for something like that.
Yeah.
It's like my second desire behind a Harry Potter game.
Oh, but it would be terrible. A Harry Potter game would be terrible.
You know those like fantasy Harry Potter games everyone always talks about wanting? Like that Skyrim but in Harry Potter world?
Yeah.
I want that, but also with VR.
Yeah.
It's the impossible game. It won't happen.
Oh, yeah.
But like, to walk through the castle, just a little dream of mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one thing about the game is the Marvel game, not the fictional
Harry Potter
thing that I'm making up.
Yeah.
It is an Oculus exclusive, which some people are furious about.
I mean, they would be. They don't have the right piece of equipment to play it,
Yeah.
and they want to play it.
How do you feel about exclusives? Because I know I have some thoughts on them.
I have a feeling that exclusives are necessary to the longevity of consoles. Like, I don't think anyone will fight me on, if we want consoles to stick around for a long period, we're going to continue to have exclusives.
Right.
That said, I wouldn't mind if consoles died, and I'd like to be able to play any game I want. So, I don't like exclusives, but I get why they're there, and I'm not gonna like... I mean, ultimately, if you make a game exclusive to anything except PC, then you're not getting my money.
Yeah.
Because I don't have that console, so I'm not going to play it.
I will say that I have bought a console based on an exclusive before.
Which is ultimately the goal of exclusives.
Yeah.
I did once as well. A long time ago, I bought a GameCube for Coliseum. Because I really wanted Coliseum. It was the first, like, full Pokemon game in 3D. Because prior to that, we'd had Stadium, but that was mostly just battles.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't a lot to that, whereas, like, Coliseum had, like, a world and, like, a story and stuff. I liked Coliseum.
I know you did. I hated both of those, Coliseum and XD.
I feel like, since apparently there's some kind of taboo at Nintendo about making things not on a Nintendo handheld that are like a main series game. Apparently they're not allowed to do that. They've got to make some kind of difference. Like, I feel that Coliseum and XD were very much on the cusp of that. Like, they were close enough to a main series Pokemon game that I got the experience I was looking for, but they were apparently far enough to fulfill whatever arbitrary requirement Nintendo or Game Freak forces on those games to keep them from being a mainline Pokemon title.
You know what game made me buy a console? Fable 2.
How'd that work out for you?
I love that game, so fine.
and that wasn't the worst console to buy.
No. I don't think I'm gonna end up ever buying a console, like a big Xbox or a PS4. Nintendo's completely out of that for me.
Yeah.
Because they're just different.
It is very different to commit to buying a Nintendo console than another console. It's ultimately similar because you're buying hardware either way, but the thing that can be offered by Nintendo is
childhood wonder.
I don't know that I was going to say that. Nintendo's a different experience because the Switch is its own thing. You can't, if you're utilizing the Switch to its fullest extent, you cannot make that game on any other platform.
Yeah.
Whereas I would say that's true. Because ultimately, it's just a very different control method, and it's not a touchscreen now, is it?
Yeah, it has one, but it's not used.
Yeah, but so that's what I'm saying. Fullest extent, something with a touchscreen and the controllers the way they are, you could do something very different. Whereas ultimately, as the Xbox and the
it's just a controller that you can plug into your PC anyway.
Yeah, so there's no like control limitation on you just playing that game on another console or on your PC.
I'm very pro-exclusive. Like, it sounds weird, because I basically only play on my computer. But I've always been of the idea that a company should be encouraged to do things to further their own product. Like, the reason I use PC is because it's kind of the conglomeration of the games in all the other places.
Yeah, it is. I use PC because I could never be like, I am going to drop $400 on a console which I think it's more than that right now, isn't it? Depending on what you get.
The regular Xbox One is $250.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't spend that I wouldn't feel comfortable spending that amount of money because I would be like, it is literally just a gaming system.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when I improve my computer, I'm improving not just that, I'm also improving my web browsing experience. I'm also improving, if I need to do photo editing, which I do, not photo editing, like, graphics stuff like Illustrator, which I do fairly often, that's improved by having a better computer. And so many other things can be done on a computer.
Right.
Whereas if I get a console, I would feel bad. I'd be like, this is just a gaming device.
I don't do that. I do a lot of things with my computer. Mm-hmm. I'm constantly 3D modeling or painting or something.
Yeah, and coding.
Coding, game dev, all that stuff. But when I'm upgrading my computer, I know, like, instantly, like, this isn't for that. Like, no. This is just for gaming for me.
Yeah.
Which I think might be less true than what you said. But there's something about it to me that, like, I can't get over that hurdle myself to tell myself it's a useful tool.
Yeah. And I don't know, I might be just making my excuses as well, because it's very easy to say, well, but, 80% of the time I do spend on my computer is playing video games. So as a result, is that really a fair assessment? Because I could achieve what I achieve on my computer outside of Illustrator mm-hmm. for much cheaper than I have. So
ultimately, I don't think it matters. As long as you're happy,
yeah.
Like, if you're using your computer that much, mm-hmm. I feel like it's okay to just dump that money in.
Yeah.
For me personally, I don't see the difference between me spending money on that or a console. Like, if it got to the point where a console was all that games was coming out on, I'd probably dump the money on a console.
Yeah, and I probably would too, but then it would be because I would feel like my computer had obsolesced, mm-hmm. And that, like, it wasn't gonna cut it anymore if I wasn't getting games anymore. At the same time, I don't think that'll ever happen, because the indie dev scene is strong, and there will always be games on PC.
Yeah.
I don't think there will come a day where PC will not be a major gaming platform.
And it's also the best place to test out new ideas. Like, as far as hardware, too. Like, I guess before this generation, Nintendo was always the place to test out new ideas. Like, there was motion controls. PS2 had iCam. But we're getting
nobody used that. Like, that runs into that issue of an install base, uh-huh. right? Where you can expect, if you put out a game for the Xbox that just requires the Xbox controller, that every single person who owns an Xbox is potentially within your market. Mm-hmm. If you put out a game for the Ouya, oops.
Yeah.
It's an issue of install base.
It was, I don't know, it's just kind of neat that we're starting to get more peripherals just based for the PC. Like all the VR helmets. Like, I guess we got PlayStation 4 VR, which I
would almost say at this point, VR is almost a different
console, especially
it's almost
with this
a different console. It like costs more than most consoles at this point. It costs more than a PC that can run it.
Yeah.
At this point, so it's kind of its own thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that the new accessories to focusing on computers is that all because of like Indiegogo or Kickstarter? It seems like we're not getting a lot of big companies making weird accessories anymore. Like, initially.
Yeah. I feel like... Yeah, I think crowdfunding, mm-hmm. it would be fair to say, has helped a lot of that. At the very least, it took some of the anxiety about entering a market out. Mm-hmm. Because it used to be, if you wanted to produce a peripheral, you had to say, okay, we're going to produce a peripheral. We expect that our user base is this size, mm-hmm. with literally no data to support that. And we have this money that is all of our money, basically. We're going to pour it into this, and we're going to hope that our prediction's right and people are going to buy our peripheral. Whereas now, it's, we want to make a peripheral. Let's go to Kickstarter.
Mhm.
And they go to Kickstarter and they say, okay, 2 people bought into our Kickstarter and gave us $10. Maybe this isn't worth our time and money.
Mm-hmm.
And so with terrible ideas dying early, you see a lot of better ideas getting through, I think.
I love the idea of Kickstarter for exactly the reasons you just said.
Mm-hmm.
But I really think we got to start pushing them to be legally responsible for making a product. They've already started doing it in Washington.
Yeah, in Washington they had that class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
Here's what I would say on that front. I would say I think you could hold them legally culpable to produce something. Like, you have to produce something. You can't just take all this money and disappear with it. But you can't hold somebody legally culpable for everything they promised, I think. Because sometimes it'll be like, that's just literally not possible. Like, we promised something that was impossible. At which point, maybe you could ding them for false advertising?
Yeah.
That might be fair.
It also makes it kind of hard to figure out who is responsible for anything. Because there was that weird Harvest Moon porn game.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Where the artist just dropped out.
Where the artist left and the other guy was like, I want to make this. I have the money to make this, but I don't have an artist. And he ran with, like, a bunch of my material.
The contract they had said that the artist had all control over the art material.
Mm-hmm.
Like, regardless of what happens to the game.
Mm-hmm.
So if he dropped out at any point, he still had the rights to it, and he said you can't use it.
Yeah.
So it was illegal for him to use the art, and there was no way to...
There was no way to recoup that cost. And yeah, it's... Legally, you look at that on paper, and it says it's this other guy's fault. It's this guy who's left, because he's still in charge of the company that's failed to fill this. But you look at it logically, and you're like, no, it's obviously the other guy's fault. Which, I mean, legally, if you wanted to be like, now is the state of Washington, we're going to sue this guy for not fulfilling his promise, then that guy could sue his partner for damages.
But he can't because it was part of his contract.
He had
it was just a poorly written contract.
Yeah.
Which is, maybe still on the main guy's fault? I don't know the legal background of their project.
Yeah, we are not lawyers and are not fit to dispense legal advice.
Everyone go harass video game lawyer. Don't do that.
About porn games.
Don't harass it.
Don't harass anyone, ever.
Don't harass a lawyer, just at all.
No, that's a particularly bad idea. That's a really bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that I don't want to see full culpability, but I definitely think if you fail a Kickstarter, you shouldn't be allowed back on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Because we see, and I don't mean fail in terms of you don't get your money. If you don't get your money, fair enough, try again. But if you get your money and fuck up, you're not allowed to start another Kickstarter.
Well, there's too many websites now. There's like 3 or 4 different crowdfunding websites.
But the problem is, like, if you link me Kickstarter, I might go look at it. If you link me Indiegogo, or what is it, like Indie Rocket or something, whatever the other one was, I won't even look at it.
I'm with you on that. But what was it, Star Citizen, who's still doing Kickstarting on their own personal website because they already finished like 2 Kickstarters?
Yeah.
Like, there are people out there who will still fund out money, even just a PayPal link.
Well, then maybe that feeds back into your whole, like, exclusives are okay thing. Because if you believe that exclusives are okay because a company is furthering their own position, why would it make sense for a company not to keep taking money if people want to keep giving them free money?
I think because it's illegal to sell someone something you can't sell them.
But they're not.
They're not selling them
the possibility of something in the future. I mean, the way that this has been pitched from the beginning is it's an investment. Yeah. And just like an investment, it can fall through, and that's somebody's fault, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're legally culpable.
Which I think is why I like Patreon.
I like Patreon better.
It feels like an investment, not like you're getting something. Because Kickstarter, they offer you rewards. Like, it's $15 to get the game early or whatever.
Yeah, and then maybe you don't.
It feels like you're buying the game.
Right, it does.
When it shouldn't.
And I think I don't think that's an inherent issue with Kickstarter. Because you could say, like, look, our reward tiers are maybe merch. Or, I've heard that merch causes a lot of issues with Kickstarters. It's better now that there's things like, there's services that can help you fulfill rewards like that. But, a lot of people are like, yeah, we had all this money and we were totally able to do our project, but we've been backed up for like a year on merch.
Ooh.
And that happens a ton, is people will just be like, we didn't realize what our response was going to be and how many people were going to want this merch.
Mm-hmm.
So we expected to make 400 t-shirts, and we're shipping out 40,000 t-shirts, which at that point is a warehouse.
There's a solution to that, though.
Uh-huh.
There is a built-in maximum for every tier. People can use that.
Yeah, there is, but you don't want to have a maximum on your lowest tier.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, we don't want your money.
But a t-shirt is never the lowest tier.
It isn't.
The lowest tier is always like $1 and it says, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. But you don't want to discourage people from giving you a larger amount of money. And I think a lot of people are like...
I think you should. I honestly believe that they overfund too many Kickstarter projects.
It's definitely true. It happened with Broken Age.
Mm-hmm.
Broken Age got overfunded, and then they lost sight of where their money was going.
I want to love that game. I have played through the first act of that game, which is it's a long first act. I'm halfway through the second act. Mechanically, it's garbage, but world building is amazing in that game.
Yeah. And I think that goes to show, like, they put too much money into it. Like, they had a really clear idea, and then they got all this extra money, and they're like, we've got to put more into it.
Yeah.
Things that I've seen that I think Kickstarter is really good for, tabletop games. Dungeons and Dragons, board games.
Those always seem to come out.
They always seem to come out. There's a company, this is the only Kickstarter I've ever done. I've only ever done one, and I'm currently waiting and hoping that I get my stuff. I bought in for $100 into a tabletop game called Scion. Which is, it's basically a Percy Jackson tabletop.
Oh, is this the one with all of the gods?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's it. They don't pitch themselves as a Percy Jackson tabletop at all. That's just how I describe it, because it's a similar idea. You're a demigod of some description, and you fight monsters and shit in the modern world. But, I backed that for $100. I'm getting, like, if they fulfill everything, I'm getting a GM screen and a couple books. Which, a GM screen and a couple books is $100.
Oh, yeah.
So...
The books are, what, 50 each, usually?
Yeah, like 30 to 60, depending.
Lately, they've been doing, paperbacks for some of them.
Yeah,
I got, like, the older ones.
I had to get an out-of-print old D&D 3.5 book, and that was, like, $70.
Ooh. I just bought the...
So, yeah, gaming books are expensive. But the thing is the company that's doing that has done a bunch of successful Kickstarters for tabletops in the past. So I'm not even really necessarily worried. Like, they've had some issues, but it's mostly just been like, we're pushing the date by like a month. And I'm like, whatever. It's hard sometimes to see your dev cycle that far out. Especially since their Kickstarter did well, and so their solution was, we're just going to add more content to the book. Because when you add more content to a video game, shit gets weird, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you had a finished video game and somebody said, add more content, you'd be like, fuck off.
It's like that ProZD sketch of the guy who's, like, excited about shooting, and then they're like, who wants to play with eggs?
Right. You're like, no, I don't. I just want to... But their solution was like, okay, we got enough money, so now we're going to add a bestiary. And now we're going to add more pantheons of gods. And now we're going to add this stuff and this stuff. And it's just... It's stuff that doesn't affect the core game that you can just write.
Yeah.
And as a result, it's not like a huge investment necessarily on their end. I think their biggest investment is like editing and art, basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, art's expensive.
Art's expensive, and their art is good. Their art is good, so
that's good.
It's probably really
There's
expensive.
Like a lot of even like published, like, I guess these are published, but like things you'll find in the store where the art's just awful.
Have you seen
I hate Mutants and Masterminds art
because the art is, well, that's really unfortunate because they wanted to do a superhero thing and then they were like, shit, literally everything iconic in superheroes is fucking trademarked. And so they were like, well, we want Superman. Okay, we'll draw off Superman.
They did that. There's examples for a ton of the heroes. And the Hulk one's my favorite, because it's just the Hulk in, like, purple.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't it purple? Yeah, those... have you seen the, like, first and second edition Dungeons and Dragons monster manuals?
Just a sec. Yes. I just remembered what they called the Hulk. It's the Hulking Man.
Yes, I remember that, too. It's the Hulking Man.
Yeah, I have seen those.
And the art is pretty terrible.
Oh my god, the red box?
Yeah.
I keep seeing shirts, because there's a new hipster store in Oahu.
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally Hot Topic,
Mm-hmm.
but nicer, and hipster furniture. It's like, they're right next to each other.
Hipster furniture.
Yeah, they're right next to each other. They sell, like, half of the same merchandise. I think it's owned by the same company. It's just, like, white in there instead of black. And, like, the people who work there have beards and wear flannels. And, like, the stuff there is, like, twice as expensive.
Yeah. Well, and everything's double its price in Hot Topic, too. You want this keychain that's gonna fall apart when you walk out the door for $20? No, I don't. I don't want that at all. Are you sure it's got Draco Malfoy loves Harry Potter on it?
Ooh, maybe. But they have this red box shirt, and I want it because it's a D&D shirt, and I want to wear something D&D. But it's so awful. The art is just bad.
It's just the original art from the cover of the red box, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I tell you?
You know what shirt I would actually like? The D&D Next logo. I think the ampersand that's the dragon is just such an elegant design.
I had one of those shirts for a while. I was really sad because it was poorly made, so it fell apart and the ampersand came off.
Oh.
But I loved that shirt. It's a great shirt.
It's a great design. I think that's probably the best. That logo is the best piece of marketing that Wizards of the Coast has done for D&D ever.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they nailed it too, because it was right at the time where ampersands were starting to get big on shirts.
Mm-hmm.
So, you'd see ampersands, and then you'd also see D&D ampersands.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell was up with that trend? Did you see any of those?
No.
Did that get big here?
I wasn't going to college at the time either, so...
It was just a lot of people wearing, Galaxy shirts with, a white ampersand on them. Not for anything, just a ampersand.
You see, the only place my brain goes is, B ampersand. That's the only place my...
I'm gonna assume it's not that.
Yeah. I would wear a band shirt. A text box under it from 4chan. The quote where Moot says he hates all Australians.
You'd be okay with that, but you're embarrassed by your really cool D&D shirt you have.
I hate that D&D shirt.
I want that D&D shirt.
It's so terrible.
It's a good shirt. I get that. I've got shirts that I won't wear outside.
Yeah.
Most things that have text on them. I don't want people reading my shirt.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah.
No. Most video game shirts I won't wear either.
I will wear stuff that's logos, but I won't wear... this. This is one of the Magic the Gathering tribes.
His shirt is a black cotton polyester blend with sun on it?
Yeah, it's, for anybody who knows Magic the Gathering, it's the Orzhov sun.
But that's so... discreet.
It's so discreet. That's why I like it. It literally
looks like a sun. It's a circle with another circle around it with spikes on it.
Yeah.
And you can't tell it's a video game shirt.
Yeah.
It looks like a design.
It does. And those are the ones that I like.
Yeah.
I just want I want a shirt for anybody who looks at it, their first impression to be like, oh, I like that shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And if their second impression is, oh, I get that reference, that's fine too.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want them to be like, what the fuck is your shirt about?
If it makes you feel better, your shirt, the D&D one, my first idea was I like that shirt.
Yeah.
It's just a good shirt. I like the shirt.
I don't like D20s on shirts.
Oh, I like those.
I hate D20s on shirts, which is why I don't like that shirt. It's just anything that's D20s as accessories, I'm it just feels like it's trying too hard. It feels really disingenuous almost.
I really like them.
I hate it.
Because it's not something most people, I think, get. The people who get it are oh, it's a role-playing game. And it's and it's not just saying, I play Dungeons and Dragons. It's it's a dice.
Yeah.
And it's also...
Well, the problem I find is most of the time it's it's got some thing that's supposed to be witty that is the most played out joke ever. The one I have that says, when the DM smiles, it's already over, or whatever the fuck it says. And it's okay, cool. If that was original, maybe I'd wear it. But it's just such a cliched thought. I don't know. It's just not appealing
I've seen
to me.
I don't know.
Welcome to the T-shirt podcast, where we talk about T-shirts.
All right, moving on. You've played Pixelmon, right? Or Pixelmon?
Yes, the
Minecraft mod?
The Minecraft mod where you can catch Pokemon.
It was shut down.
Not surprising.
It was 8 years in development.
It was basically done. Like, all they were doing was adding new Pokemon.
It got shut down by the Pokemon Company.
Not
they said they were asked. It was probably a cease and desist.
Probably.
They're usually better about that. But I do know that Pokemon Company is different from Nintendo.
Yes.
So they very well could... Well, they allow some ROMs and stuff to float around.
Well, here's the deal with ROMs, because I'm kind of into that scene because I really like ROM hacks. The way that they say ROMs are acceptable is no one is allowed to redistribute ROMs which are based on or contain core code for a Pokemon game. What you are allowed to distribute is IPS patches and patchers, so that if someone rips their own ROM from their game, which everybody's doing that, we're definitely not screwing you, Nintendo. If you rip your own ROM from your game, you can use an IPS patch and a patcher to apply it and thereby put the ROM hack on the game and then play it that way.
But, like, Nintendo would shut that down immediately.
Yeah.
Nintendo's
well, actually, Nintendo's
crazy
cool
about
with that because they have to be. They tried to shut somebody down and somebody fought them on it, and they won.
It still doesn't hurt them to send out cease and desist letters. They do that crazily.
Yeah. But, like, Twitch Plays Pokemon did a ROM hack. That's fine. You can publicly download it from their site.
Well, they needed to have that ROM hack. I'm glad that didn't get shut down.
Yeah.
But it got shut down. And a lot of people are kind of sad because it's a fan favorite mod.
It is.
But I looked into it. Those fuckers are shady. Like, the developers for that are not, like... I see why it got shut down. They were making tons of money off of Pixelmon.
Really?
Yeah. Normally, these kinds of mods, you expect they do it for free or, like, donations.
Well, they do AdFly. Almost all mods for Minecraft do AdFly now.
Yeah.
Or something similar.
They were making ad revenue, which is still...
questionable, but most people get away with it, so whatever.
They were making pay-to-win servers, where they were, like, actually holding the servers up and making people, like, pay for Pokemon or other things, which is still, like, it's not great.
I would say that is crossing a line. Actually, I'm pretty sure that's against the Minecraft terms of service, isn't it?
It is.
So, that would be an issue there.
They had code in the mod to remotely disable servers that were competing with them.
Ooh.
Yeah. So you could have a server, but if you're trying to make money off it, they'd remote shut you down. And then the final thing that broke the camel's back for me was people were talking about this before. Like, this has been widely known for a while, but they've been trying to shut people up about it. They were issuing DMCA requests to YouTubers.
Oh.
Who were talking about this.
That's super not okay.
Right?
Also, they don't own the rights to shit or fuck all.
But it does. You basically don't have to make a DMCA request.
You don't, which is an issue with YouTube.
Yeah.
So what? Based on this, we've discovered issues with Minecraft, people who make mods, the Pokemon Company, and YouTube.
Yeah.
Which was just a clusterfuck.
I wasn't expecting any of that going in, because you hear Pixelmon get shut down, and it's like, oh, okay, whatever, it's fine. The mods get shut down all the time.
I have to go look at the server I usually play on and see if it still exists.
Is that a Pixelmon one?
Yeah, the Pixelmon.
It very well could have gotten shut down. I know they're no longer...
It's possible, but it's 4chan, so I wouldn't be surprised if
if it's not run by them, it's probably...
They've probably done something to get around it, even if there was an issue.
I know they're no longer allowed to distribute it, of course, because that's what happens with all cease and desist letters.
That's part of it.
It's probably still available for torrent if you're into that.
Oh, you don't even need a torrent. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to find a link as soon as I look at this.
I'm really going to throw up a lot of mod packs, though, because I know the Twitch app's probably going to take it down, because they're a company. They don't want to get...
Yeah, they don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah, that's just a whole disaster. I'm kind of sad. Like, not for the developers, because I think everything they've done is super shitty. But I never actually got a chance to play it. I was always kind of, like, holding out for, like, the perfect time for that mod, because it seemed like it was always in development.
It was still in active development. They didn't... The problem was they kept, like, almost finishing, and then a new gen would come out, and they'd be like, fuck! Especially Fairy-type sent them back, because they had to redo a bunch of old stuff.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I was, like, sitting around, like, when it's done, I'll have a group together, I'll play it out, but I don't want to waste time on it beforehand. And now it's over. So I guess now is the perfect time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not getting any more development.
Did you find it?
No, it looks like it's gone.
Oh.
That's surprising. I will check back later, because sometimes threads just go down, but...
Yeah. Well, I guess this is our send-off to shitty developers for the day.
Yeah.
I think that's the only big news story about shitty developers, really, today. I do have a kind of annoying bit of news. Have you played Lord of the Rings Online?
No.
I've played a little bit of it. It's old.
Yeah, it's old.
It's super old.
It's quite old at this point.
But they're getting an expansion pack. It's the Mordor expansion pack. Which,
not surprising.
Of course they had to. Of course,
yeah.
I'm surprised it wasn't in there before.
Yeah, kind of.
It's Lord of the Rings. It's not like Middle Earth.
Well,
but
correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Lord of the Rings Online's whole deal was always that it's mostly about the North.
Yeah.
That it has very little to do with, like, the South or the Shire or really even Gondor or
It's
anything.
really contained.
Yeah, it's really north, which puts it pretty far from Mordor.
But they're releasing that, and it's crazy expensive.
Well, I mean, the game's free.
So they're doing the 3-tiered system, which I enjoy. Black Desert did it. It's like the base game's like the lowest tier, and then you get more stuff for going up the tiers. Black Desert, like $10 for their lowest tier, $15, and then $30 for their top tier.
Yeah.
Which gives you like all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
It's a good way to get like people who normally can't shell out all your money, while also giving other people stuff. It's a little pay to win.
It depends on how you do it. I don't think Black Desert Online does it to an egregious degree.
I would completely disagree with you on that.
Really?
Yeah.
What do they give you?
A cat that picks up items, so you no longer have to sit there spamming the Z button.
I've never... I would hardly even notice that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure everything in that game...
That doesn't feel pay to win to me at all.
Yeah. It gives you a lot of stuff, and I know some people are very angry about it. I'm not angry about it, but I can see... I'll look into it, and we can talk about it next week.
Okay.
But Lord of the Rings Online, their lowest tier is $30 for this expansion. Which is... It's still within the realm of, like... most expansions are kind of in that price range.
I mean, Elder Scrolls Online charged $30 for the Morrowind expansion, and you still have to buy the base game.
So that one's normally... Like, that's in the normal price range.
Yeah.
The second tier is $80.
Second tier, jeez.
The third tier is $130. You cannot play an elf in that game unless you get the second tier.
Ooh.
$80 to play one of the playable races. As well as titles, the ability to own a house, some horses. I do think
that does feel questionable.
Yeah, really expensive.
Yeah, especially if elves are mechanically different at all.
They are.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I looked into it. I couldn't say they were better, which I was surprised to find, but they were definitely different. They are... the $130 tier lets you teleport, which I think is a bit pay to win.
I don't know enough about the game.
Yeah, but it's Middle-earth, so I assume it's got to be pretty big, and it lets you teleport between houses and cities.
Yeah.
Which, in any MMO, is, like, a big concern.
Most MMOs don't let you do that.
Yeah.
I honestly have a feeling that a lot of people who get that are going to be sad that they can teleport everywhere.
I don't know. I liked it in Mabinogi.
Yeah, but Mabinogi had a restriction on it.
Which I thought was actually more annoying.
But the idea is that, like, it encourages you to... Mabinogi also had that one bridge that the only way to open it was to run a dungeon, and then it would be open for everybody for, like, an hour.
Yeah. They had a lot of stuff like that. There was a lot of stones that you could only break with certain items, and then they tell you who... There's a bunch of more stuff like that now.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Because it's basically... The people who could play the game now can open it just on will, so it's everyone waiting around, like, with the item, like, my name's gonna be on that rock when I open it.
Yeah.
Which, I always wanted to be on there, I never got it.
Yeah. I think we got to a point where we were high enough level to run the, like, most basic of those dungeons, and I don't think we dropped the item. I think I died.
Danielle and I got way further, like, a year ago. We got... like 2 or 3 acts into the story. That story is so long.
It is.
It's a really well done story.
I don't even think I ever got into a main story for Mabinogi.
Back when we played, so Nexon has this thing where, like, when they start a game, it's super hard to level. And then when they get further, they're like, oh my god, everyone's high level, it now make it easier. Like, it happened real hard with Maple Story. Back when I played in, like, 6th grade, it took me, like, months of playing, like, 12 hours a day on weekends to get to level 30.
Yeah.
And then I played with Danielle, like, a week and we got there. So, it's way easier to level now. But the story is really interesting, and it's about these, at least where we are, it's about these 3 characters, and you kind of learn about the lore of the world, which was really well done because it's all based on...
it's based on the Mabinogion.
Yeah.
Which is the Welsh mythological text.
It's...
Which, by the way, is one of the craziest mythologies I've ever run into in terms of how creative they are with the shit that goes on. There's a guy, Brendan, I think is the character.
What a lame name for a mythological person. Like, I know it came from that.
Yes.
But just like, oh yeah, the mighty god, Joe.
Yeah. Well, King Arthur's spear's name was Ron.
Yeah, yep.
But yeah, Brendan, who was a giant, who was so big that when he walked from Wales to Ireland across the sea, they thought there was a mountain crossing the sea. Like, that's how big he's described. Like, he blotted out the horizon, and his eyes were, like, the size of moons and shit. Like, their size of things is ridiculous.
I didn't realize this until, like, a couple months in, but my last D&D campaign I ran, one of the big plot points was actually based on him, that giant.
Oh!
It was based on an art piece, which I later found out was
that guy?
I guess Brendan.
Brendan, yeah.
I didn't know his name.
But,
yeah. But the Mabinogi story, it's got awesome cutscenes. You actually get to play as the characters in the story. Sometimes.
I think I started the main quest line then, because I remember playing as somebody else for like a second.
Yeah. And I think that's a really cool way, especially in that game where there's so many different styles of playing.
Yeah.
To let you try stuff out.
It lets you try stuff out, and also, one of the issues with that game is, like, most MMOs are designed, like, their stories are designed so that they can work with any race. Whereas Mabinogi, like, when it came out, it had one race.
Yeah.
And then they added more, and they tried really hard to make the races feel unique, and they do.
Except the fact that you can basically only play a ranger as an elf, and a swordsman as a giant.
Which just adds to how different they feel, but, the idea of, like, how do we make a story work in the context of your character can be literally anything, and we have very little idea of what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
The idea of just like, oh yeah, you play as other people because they're the actual main characters. That's cool. I like that.
They do still make you feel like you're the main character as you're doing stuff, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Because you're going into the past and kind of living out their memories through the dungeon. And then I think you get to a point where you actually find them. I don't know.
Yeah, because in Welsh mythology, being immortal is kind of like, comes with the kit, so to speak.
I'm not far enough, but I have like a very sneaking suspicion that one of the quest givers might be one of them. Which is a very big trope.
Yeah, it's a very mythology thing.
Yeah.
Greek mythology loves that. The idea of like, oh yeah, the person who was helping you the whole time is actually a god.
I pulled that off in one of my D&D campaigns, and that was really good, because they actually... So they figured out it was a god, but they couldn't figure out which god it was, which just, like, made me giddy.
Yeah.
Speaking of MMOs that are kind of weird as far as skills go, Albion Online comes out today.
Albion Online?
Yeah, it's not Fable related.
Okay.
It's a sandbox MMO. I think we talked a little bit about sandbox MMOs last week.
Maybe not last week, but we've definitely talked about them in the past.
It's one of the kind where all the resources are available in the world, and you have to go out and
find them.
Get them.
Yeah.
There are no classes.
Okay.
There are no races.
Okay.
Your entire character is based on what armor you have. And your equipment.
So they're going kind of Final Fantasy Tactics with it.
Yeah, but it seems to be a bit, like, even more diverse.
I would hope so. If they were going to make an MMO out of it, it would have to be.
Because it seems, at least from what I've seen, it's been in open beta for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
All of the normal playstyles of, like, a normal MMO, like, all of the classes
they exist.
Are available.
Yeah.
And they mix and match really well. It's one of those games where, like, all the best stuff has to be crafted, of course.
Yeah.
I think everything has to be crafted. So
no, like, loot drops from dungeons?
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
But the better stuff has to be crafted by, like, a good craftsman. Have you heard of that old Star Wars MMO?
The old Star Wars MMO. You mean,
Is that Knights?
Knights.
Of the Old Republic?
No, Knights of the Old Republic was the video game. It's, yeah, but the one that was fairly...
The one that was super sandbox, where people just played chefs in restaurants because all of the stores had to be manned by people.
The one where everybody really liked it and then stopped playing it after 6 months?
It just shut down.
Yeah, okay, we're thinking about the same one. I don't remember what it's called.
It seems like the people who really enjoyed that are into this now. Because it's all player-driven.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'm probably not gonna buy it because I've spent too much money on games recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm gonna look into it. It looks really cool. I'm super obsessed with the idea of a player-based economy, like, fully.
Play Eve.
Yeah, right. Games always talk about, like, a player-driven economy, and then it's like everything's in the stores anyway.
Yeah, it's ultimately not. One game that does that really well is Path of Exile.
Black Desert has it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not perfect. It's all done through Marketplace, and you basically need it to do anything.
I didn't notice that while I was playing.
How far did you get? You played only a couple hours, right?
I played till, like, level 36.
Check out the Marketplace. That game is super... You're super underpowered unless you get armor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your armor actually matters more than your level for most things. And your weapon. And that game is super about stacking bonuses through gems, armor slots, and your armor bonuses. It gets really fun and complex about doing that.
The way that Path of Exile did it, and I will forever love the way that they did it because it's just so smart. Instead of having a currency, they have currency items. Currency items also have uses. So, like, it's a Diablo style. So one of them I remember just re-rolls all of the random affixes on your weapon.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's a currency.
Yeah.
Like, it's the currency you use for Marketplace, for all the in-game vendors, for trading amongst people. You use it. And as a result, it introduces a natural money sink into the economy in the form of people using their currency items. Because that's a really expensive item that does that. And people will burn hundreds of them. Just like, I've got to get the right affixes on this weapon. And they'll just burn through all of them. One of them changes the number of gem slots in a weapon. And you can theoretically, it's got the Diablo style inventory system where things have like a size on like a Tetris grid, basically. And for, I believe, most things, you can have a gem in each square it occupies. So if it's a 2x3 thing, you can potentially have up to 6 gems in it. So people will... But, like, each additional gem is such a lower chance to spawn. But there's a chance, and there's also chances that slots will link to each other, and then you can like, connect gems and like, build bonuses that way. So people will burn through thousands of things just re-rolling the slots on their items for better gem slots.
That's interesting. I tend to hate the randomness of that kind of thing. And that's why I like how Black Desert does it. All of the gems tell you what they do.
Gems are weird in Path of Exile because gems are your skills. You slot your skills into weapons.
Weird.
And you only can use skills that you have equipped. So...
Okay.
It's not about, like, giving bonuses to your weapons as much as it is, like, having your skills. And then the way that they join is you can get support gems that'll apply a modifier to a skill. So it'll be, like, you'll have one gem and then you'll have, like, 2 support gems linked to it that, like, double its duration and add poison damage or something. I think they're more interesting than that normally. Normally they pretty hugely change the way that the skill functions.
I want that in Black Desert.
Yeah.
Like a big change, like poison or something like that. right now, I kind of like the way they do it. You have like 6 stats in the game, and they're not like strength, dex, whatnot, because
they're like the League of Legends stats. They're like attack damage, attack speed, movement speed, armor,
and those feel different when I I upgrade them differently. Like I've tried a couple of different builds for my sorcerer, and right now I've got movement speed and magic speed and luck maxed out. So luck affects your drops.
Yeah.
At the very least, you need that. Like, most people play without that and you have a backup character for that, but if you're having one, that one's a great one to have. But having a different attack speed, especially in an action RPG, that just changed the way I felt like the game was running.
Yeah.
But I think, like, paralyzing or ice or something different there to diversify players more would be nice.
I think, like, I'm trying to think what the actual changes are. They're fairly major, like, one, I remember there's a summon spell, and one of the support gems you can slot into it changes what it summons.
Oh.
So, like, they're fairly major changes to, like, the basic functions of the skills. One, I think, is, like, a targeted thing, and the support gem makes it an AoE around yourself instead.
Huh. That's cool.
The idea is that, like, you have these basic ideas of skills, and the support gems make them the skills you actually want to use.
I like that. Does it work well? Like in actual?
Yeah, it works really well.
That's good.
If you liked Diablo style games, I think you'd really like Path of Exile.
I probably couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's ultimately like after you get through all of the stuff it does differently, it's Diablo 2. If you don't like Diablo 2, you're gonna hate Path of Exile.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I like a lot of the ideas in Diablo 2, but the execution didn't do it for me.
Maybe you would like Path of Exile then, because it's basically better executed Diablo 2.
Alright.
Diablo 2 is, 20 years old at this point, and Path of Exile
didn't get far in Diablo.
Younger. And that's a problem too, is I would say...
It's got the Final Fantasy problem!
No, people are gonna fight me about this. I think the second act of Diablo 2 is probably the best. Which, does have the Final Fantasy problem if it's a little further on. But I think there are people who would be like, no, Act 4 is the best. Well, nobody thinks Act 4 is the best. Act 5 is the best.
There's that many. Wow.
Act 5 is added by a DLC.
Oh, okay.
I really hate Act 3, which is in, like, a jungle that's just the worst. And Act 4 is half the length of the other ones, because it's in hell and you go fight Diablo.
Gotcha.
It's like the ending act, but it only has half the number of quests as everything else. It's really disappointing.
So we talked a little bit about ROM hacks and DMCA stuff.
Yep.
A new indie Nintendo-based title just came out, Mega Man Maker.
Oh.
It's Mario Maker, but for Mega Man. And it's super well thought out. It's super well done. But they announced it 2 days before they released it. And so they got out just scot-free. It's out there. It's done. It's like not in progress anymore, which I think is the way to do that. But that's going to be hard to like keep that all contained and not get anyone hyped.
There was that one Lord of the Rings mod, which was like, we exist, but we're not going to tell anybody about us. And they still got DMCA'd. Like there was like 3 screenshots and it was it. And they got DMCA'd, and it was like, we were so careful!
Yeah, no one knew about Mega Man Maker before it came out. I haven't given it a try yet. I'm probably gonna. I really like the Mega Man games.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the series that lends itself really well to that kind of a thing.
Yeah. Because
it's a platformer, like Mario is. And so, in that way, the games can be really similar. But also, Mega Man's a dead franchise at this point, basically. Yeah. And so... if we want to see more of that, it's got to come from the community, and it adds a good venue for that. The one thing I'm kind of worried about is all the best stuff in Mega Man was scripted. Yeah, like the bosses. Yeah, all the bosses are scripted. I'm distinctly remembering Quickman stage, which just had laser beams shooting in from the walls, and you're dropping throughout the whole stage. You're like trying to avoid falling or landing on anything, so you stop. And I'm hoping there's a scripting capability, because otherwise it's kind of a lame platformer. Is it on PC? Yeah. There's probably scripting of some description. I'm sure even if there isn't, there'll be people who are like, it's really close to what we want, so we're going to mod the mod and make it work. And they'll figure out how to add new bosses. Because I don't think that has much of a leg to stand on if you can't add new bosses.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly.
And it's not very interesting in the platformer way that like Mario is, where there's like jump blocks and like music things and all sorts of crazy stuff going on. It's literally just like flat blocks that sometimes disappear.
Yeah, or like a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a spike.
Yeah. So hopefully there's something interesting going on there. I think that's all of the news I've got.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't play many games this week. I had a problem where I kind of just stared at a wall for like 3 days straight and then like forgot those days happened.
Well, it hasn't been that long since our last podcast either.
Yeah.
Normally we have a couple more days in there.
But like on Friday I was convinced it was Thursday. Like I don't know what I did for Thursday. It just disappeared. But I did play one game. I played Project Cars, which I know you've played.
I have played Project Cars. Let's talk about Project Cars.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, Project Cars is a racing game. It doesn't seem to be branded by anyone. It's just Project Cars. There's a bunch of cars and...
Yeah, and I think, remind me, it does use real car brands, right?
Yes.
It doesn't do the thing where it's like, it's a Moyota.
There are some of those, I think, but most of them are real cars.
Yeah.
I hated it going in. Like...
Yeah, because you don't realize what it is going in, I think.
I'm one of those people who presses buttons all the way down.
Oh.
And that doesn't work in that game.
You have to be really, really gentle with it. It's a simulated racing game. Like, if you go too fast, you're gonna flip.
The learning curve, I hate comparing things to Dark Souls, but the learning curve is the same as Dark Souls. I'm not saying it's a Dark Souls-like game, but there's just that, like, beginning where you don't know what you're doing and you're gonna just flip out a lot and then something clicks and then you're like, oh, I get the game.
I feel like Dark Souls has a bit.
Dark Souls 3.
Okay, fair enough.
You start that game, boss monster.
Yep. And you either get it or you quit.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I tried it out a little bit before and I hated it because you spend that first half an hour spinning out. You're basically like, you hold down the trigger, and then you go full forward, and then your car automatically spins out.
Yeah. What did you play in terms of modes?
I've just been playing free mode, because I always start racing games learning.
Okay.
Because I'm not good at them, it's not the genre.
Things are going to change for you. I played career mode, and that starts you out in go-karts. And you have to work your way up to actual cars.
That's the way I should have played. Because I started...
It's way better because you still spin out a lot in the go-karts, but it's a lot more forgiving.
I've never spun out in a go-kart. So I started with, like, heavy racing cars. Because you play a racing game, you're like, that's the one I want to play.
And you suck at it because they're hard to control.
But then I started getting, like, it's like real driving. You let up on the gas when you're turning.
Right.
And so, like, I went to go-karts. And I realized I can drive this incredibly well. Everything feels like it should. To me, driving in a go-kart in that game feels like I'm playing Mario Kart.
Yeah, similar. It's a little touchier than Mario Kart.
But it's the same ideas. It's forgiving, like you said.
Yeah.
And then I got pretty good at that. I'm like, I'm going to try something else. I started moving up to street cars, and I got pretty good with those.
You actually moved in a different direction than me. I went to Formula 1. Where I was riding around in the, like, still lowrider kind of small fiberglass things, but it was just, like, a more powerful go-kart with, like, rockets in the back. That was fun.
I went from street cars, and then I went to race cars. And so I'm actually pretty good at driving a race car now.
Yeah.
And then, funny enough, right now I'm working on Formula 1. That's the one I'm having the hardest time with.
They're really hard to control. They're just little floaty, just like pieces of shit.
Yeah.
But they're fun because they go so fast.
I started playing because I noticed that it had a VR mode, and hopefully next week sometime.
Oh yeah, you bought an Oculus Rift.
I did.
That's right, I forgot you bought an Oculus Rift.
It was like $60 for me. I couldn't not.
Yeah.
I was going to buy the controller it came with anyway, the Xbox one,
for
the same price. So it worked out. I'm terrified. Because I've gotten to the point where do you know if it's in miles an hour or kilometers per hour?
It's set in Europe, so it's probably in kilometers.
Okay. So I don't have a great reference point for that, because I'm an awful American.
A kilometer is about 2.5 kilometers is about a mile.
Okay, so I'm only driving at like 80 miles an hour, if I'm going like at 150-ish.
I don't want to do math, but sure.
So that's one of the games I'm super excited to try out because I don't drive very fast. There's nowhere to drive fast.
You
here.
can't drive. For those unaware, on the island that we live on, the fastest speed limit is 60 miles an hour. It's in one place.
We got 70 now.
We have 70.
We have 70 on Upper Road up to Waimea.
That's a terrible place to put that. That's a tiny little windy road.
Everyone drives 80 to 90 up there anyway.
Yeah, but it's not a good place.
80 to 90.
I don't. I drive the speed limit, which I guess is now 70. My car doesn't even go 70. But yeah, for the longest time it was 60 was like impressive when we got it. Growing up here, the fastest you ever went was 55.
Yeah.
You never went faster than 55. If you're speeding, you went 60 because, 5 miles over.
But like, so I'm excited to like actually try out fast driving in a place where I won't die.
Mm-hmm. We actually have a drag strip in Hilo too.
Do we?
So you can, if you wanted to drive a really fast car.
I'm not going to do that in real life.
Do you remember? God, what was his name? Alan. He was one of the mentors when we were in high school. The like old guy with the curly hair.
Yeah.
He wiped out his Tesla on the drag strip. He like totaled a Tesla on the drag strip.
Ooh. Oh my
That
heart.
was when we were in high school.
I don't even like cars. Just hearing that hurts though.
But the guy's like 70. Like he looks like an old man, and I guess he just destroyed his vehicle.
Is he dead?
No, he was fine. He like came in the next day.
Tesla, good airbags.
Yeah, I guess so. and he had a brand new car, so he was not hurting.
I'm really glad that I took the time to learn how to play before I tried it in VR. Because spinning out and, like, crashing into everything...
Yeah, you'd be super unhappy.
Yeah.
Especially in, like, a real racing car, because you started there.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be like, oh god, I'm dying.
I'm going to go back through my progression again in the helmet.
Yeah.
Just because I'm terrified.
You should play, that one VR experience where you're strapped in a chair and can't move. It's a horror thing.
Is that you have to hold space?
No.
Oh, okay.
There's a horror experience in VR where the premise is that you're strapped in your chair and can't move. So they suggest that you just sit in a chair and don't move for the whole thing. But, like, people do shit to you. It's a horror game.
Ugh, I'll try it.
Yeah. There's also one where you're locked underwater in a cage with sharks.
There's a game called You Have to Hold Space or something. Where it's like you have to hold space or you lose.
And it's like trying to freak you out.
And I've watched some Let's Players play it. I don't remember the order.
Is it
things.
VR?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's a part with bees in it.
Oh, no.
And I hate bees.
I also hate bees.
So you and I are going to try that.
Oh, no.
Yeah. That's what's going to get me. That, and I think... Oh, I don't know if Resident Evil has it for PC yet. Because I know they got PlayStation VR for Resident Evil.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. That would probably be freaky. I know there's, like, insects in that, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, all the people, they, like, explode in the insect.
No, it's
the
just
wife.
the mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the mom. She has, like, a weird bug thing. And then, I don't know, like, looking down and showing that your character is no hand. That might be a little freaky in VR. Just being like, oh, that's... I don't have a hand.
That game is amazing. I'm so glad they made that the way they did. Because they took a risk with it. It's way different than all the others.
Well, the joke everybody makes is every 3 games they change it.
Nice.
Because Resident Evil 4 is very different from 1 through 3.
Is that the giraffe blowjob?
I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, and then 4 through 6 are very similar. And then 7 is like its own thing again. So we'll get up to 9 as stuff like 7. Mm-hmm. And then 10 will be a racing game.
I played that.
Resident Evil Kart?
Yeah.
Resident Evil Kart.
Sounds kind of fun. Like, terrified racing.
Just the mom chasing you in like a little shitty go-kart with the lantern. Just like, come back here.
Oh, no one's really done that yet, have they?
Horror racing? No, nobody's done horror racing. There was that one demo somebody put out on Reddit that was a horror game where you're like driving through the backwoods somewhere. And, like, there's realistic damage on your car, but you have, like, no visibility because it's the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. And all you can see is in your rearview mirror, there's a truck with a bunch of hillbillies in it chasing you.
I know there's one game where you're a hitchhiker, and the people who pick you up are a serial killer.
Oh, God.
And you have to, like...
not die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, like, you can't really do anything. You can ask to get out, you can kind of talk with them. Like,
hello, Mr. Serial Killer. I would like not to die today. May you let me out of your vehicle?
Yeah, and you can, like, open your window.
Oh, and, like, jump out onto the highway?
And you can, like, look around. No, I think the way you can ask to get out, but you can also, like, dodge out of the door. But there's also just, like, opening window to, like, try and get them to not talk to you.
Oh.
And, like, there's shit in the back seat, too. It's kind of creepy to even just watch.
Yeah.
I like creative horror games. I don't know if there's a good market for them.
VR is a great place for horror.
Oh, that's not even VR. It's just
it's not
creepy. It should be.
It should be. I feel like now that we have VR technology, that's going to be the horror platform.
Yeah.
Because it's like all the things that we've been doing to make horror good over the years that we've had to do and like make all these crutches because it's like we can't immerse you fully in the experience. So we have to like add these extra little things that help immerse you externally. Now we can do that in VR. Like, we've gotten really good at it, and now we get the biggest crutch possible, which is to put people in the game. And so now even shitty horror games are going to make you shit your pants. Which means good ones. I'm waiting for the day that we get the headline, old man dies due to heart attack playing horror game in VR.
Oh,
it's going to happen, and it's sad, but, like, somebody's going to be like, too much. Ah!
It's going to be that old Skyrim woman.
Oh. No, because she'd be like, fuck you, dragon, come here.
It's really adorable watching. She's so slow.
Is she?
Yeah. Because it's like one of her first games, too.
Yeah.
Where she's like reading all the things and like learning.
Yeah.
It's an interesting experience.
Yeah.
So what have you been playing this week?
A lot of Fallout 4. A lot of Fallout 4.
You sound really disappointed by that.
No, it's just, I think I realized as I was playing through Far Harbor, which I'm pretty sure I've beaten. If I haven't beaten Far Harbor, it's really bad about giving me that information. Because I'm pretty sure I beat Far Harbor. The ending of...
Yeah.
As you can tell by the fact that I'm not sure if I beat it or not, ending's kind of disappointing. I think there's a...
Fallout game with a disappointing ending?
Wow.
Oh my god.
I think it's because I took the least interesting ending.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure there's at least 3 endings where you, like, basically blow up the DLC. But I didn't want to do those because I was still fucking around with it, or I thought I was. So I did, like, the sort of, like, let's help everybody get along ending. And I still have the option to go back and do some of the other endings. So I'm wondering if, like, the everybody gets along ending, they were like, that is such a shitty ending, it's not even the end. But I realized playing through that, like, I didn't like Fallout 4 much when it came out. I had a lot of issues with it that sort of soured my first impression of it. So for me, it has basically been 5 to 6 years, I guess 6 years since any kind of Bethesda game that really freeing realization that the world is open has like hit me. And I got that during Far Harbor.
Hey,
that like feeling of like a new Bethesda game with new content that I've never seen before, and I have no fucking idea what's out there. And I don't know if that gave me a better impression of that DLC than it really deserves, because I think Nuka World is the better DLC, which is weird because that's the one everybody bitches about. Have you ever wanted to be a raider in a Fallout game?
I have heard that's available.
Yes. No, it's the entire Nuka World DLC. If you don't want to be a raider, fuck off.
Oh.
Don't even play Nuka World. I was trying to play through. I had to go switch my companions because Curie was having none of any of the options. She was like, you shouldn't even be here. These people are awful.
Most of the companions I play with, I have to assume would hate that.
Yeah,
because I usually play with... What's the girl from the Green Jewel? Piper. I usually play with Piper, and her whole backstory is super anti-raider.
Yeah, she would hate it. Hancock's probably fine with most of the things you do.
Hancock! I always forget about... I never play with him long. He's super interesting.
I've never gotten him as a companion before. I'm going to do it this run-through. But basically, the idea of Nuka World is at level 30.
It just hit me.
Uh-huh.
Strong. I finally have an excuse to play Strong.
Strong would probably have no problem with the raiders. He'd probably be like, these people seem reasonable and intelligent. So the premise is at level 30, you get a thing that's like, you get a radio broadcast that's the Nuka-Cola like jingle from TV, which is cute. it's very reminiscent of, like, you know, soft drink jingles that they used to have on TV. And you head out, and there's you go to this abandoned metro station that's going to take you on the train to the other world space that is Nuka World.
Right.
And when you get there, you realize Nuka World has been conquered by raiders, and that there's 3 major factions. There's the Disciples, who are all about torture. There's the Operators, who are all about money. And the Pack, who are all about animal instinct.
That's really cool. That's, like, very different from all of the other factions you get in that game, which I think is necessary, because all of them seem like they're trying to do the right thing in Fallout.
Not in this DLC
and
at
that's never been, like, a super big point in Fallout, because there's always that group that's trying to fuck everyone over.
No, they're working together for now, but it seems to imply, to me at least, as far as I've gotten, that there's going to be some conflict at some point between those factions.
Right.
Which I have basically assured, because every given chance I have sided with the Operators. You actually go around and you claim the different attractions at the park for each different faction. I claim them all for the Operators. Because the Disciples pissed me off by being dicks, and I felt like the Pack wouldn't create any kind of stable situation.
I really like the idea of Nuka World. That was always the one DLC that I really wanted to try, because all the other DLCs don't have great selling points.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is it's like, oh yeah, this is definitely a theme park.
Yeah.
There's a zoo. That's probably my favorite part, because there's a quest for each of the different ones, and each one is kind of cute in its own way. The zoo one is fun because you basically meet Tarzan.
I have to play this.
Basically, after the bombs fell, the gorilla exhibit, all the gorillas got loose and continued to live in the park, and they got ghoulified. So the gorillas are immortal. And a raider child got abandoned with the gorillas and got raised, and he's Tarzan.
That's cool.
And his name's Sito. He's a really charming character, and I wish immediately I wanted him as a companion, and there was a disciple, actually, who I wanted as a companion because she had the best accent. Because ultimately companions are voice packs over the game, so you want the person with the best voice. Couldn't get either of them. There's only one companion in the DLC.
Is it a big spoiler?
No, it isn't.
Okay, go ahead.
I wasn't going to say who it was anyway. But yeah, there's only one companion in the DLC, which I was sad about, because I want Sita to follow me around and hit people with a sledgehammer, and I wanted Dixie to follow me around and talk with her delightful southern drawl.
There's got to be a mod for Cedo, right?
There's a mod that just makes us... I'm pretty sure it's got the Skyrim mod where anybody can be a companion, which I just need to install.
Yeah. I've got all the DLC for Fallout, but I haven't given most of it a try. The only stuff I've tried is the base building stuff. Which is ultimately the most disappointing. Have you played the robot stuff? I haven't played through it. Where you can craft robots? Literally the only DLC I've played is, I have Sanctuary, I'm building different stuff now. Okay. You can craft robots. That's one of the DLC. Automatron, right? Automatron. I like it more than I expected to. I still don't think it's worth the money they charge for it. Yeah. But one thing I found that was really interesting, did you ever get the companion Curie? I didn't take her. But you know that she's like a Mr. Handy robot. Yeah. You can mod her in the Automatron. Which can I thought was so cool. Codsworth too? Probably. I imagine so. I hated Curie. I love Curie. Curie's the best. Everyone's like that. Everyone's like waifu Curie, but it's not even a waifu thing. I really, as I kind of explained, I feel like the characters are voice packs over the game because outside of dialogue, you just should have a companion because they provide extra fire support. But ultimately, like, which companion you choose doesn't make a huge gameplay difference outside of dialogue. So I choose companions based on how much I like their voice, and to a certain degree how much I like their character. And Curie is the perfect companion to me in that game because she just injects this level of just delightful, just curiosity and purity. Like, it's just when you pick stuff up, she's like, oh, do we need that? Like, the French accent and how bright she is just makes the game so much more delightful to me. I get where they were coming from, because she's very innocent. like she's from the vault. But
Yeah.
like, I felt like that outside of the vault didn't fit to me. Like, it wasn't something that belonged there.
It gets better once you finish her storyline.
Okay.
Because have you actually gone through her storyline?
No, because I didn't take her out.
Do you care?
I think I know what happens.
Okay, spoiler alert for Fallout 4 Curie companion quest. So, Curie at a certain point after you travel with her for a while says, I am probably one of the biggest repositories of medical knowledge in the wasteland.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a pretty fair thing to say about her. But she says, I have no capacity for true invention because I'm a robot.
Yeah.
So she wants to put her brain in a human body.
Okay. I knew she was a human. I'm assuming she becomes a synth?
She does become a synth.
Okay.
After she becomes a synth, it's like a huge change for her. Like, she realizes a lot of her responses to things seem like they're the result of Robco wasn't really ready for a nuclear apocalypse, and so they didn't code in, like, do X if there's a nuclear apocalypse. So most of Codsworth even doesn't fully have the cognitive capacity to process, like, there has been a nuclear apocalypse.
That's one of his defining character traits, especially at the beginning, where he's, like, kind of having a dissociative problem.
Which you notice with most robots in the Fallout universe. And so when Curie becomes a human, she starts taking things seriously. She's like, oh shit, like, I'm in mortal peril, shit hurts, there's radiation everywhere, like, the world just kind of sucks.
I like that they did that where, like, some of the companions change depending on, how their story ends.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad they didn't do it with Piper. Her story just kind of sticks.
Peters out, yeah.
Dance was really good about that.
Okay. Is it? Yeah, because Dance... Okay, we're done with Fallout spoilers. I know what happens, even though I haven't played all the way through his story yet.
I was so sad I got that spoiled for me.
I got that spoiled for me, which I didn't have a problem with then, but I would like to not know now that I am playing through with him. I got Dance spoiled for me, but I actually... So when you go to Diamond City for the first time, you have that interaction with Piper where she gets you through the gate.
Mm-hmm.
So in this playthrough, the second I got through the gate, I just walked away. I just left Piper. And she actually calls after you. She's like, kind of like, what the fuck? That's super rude, you dick.
That's cool.
So I didn't talk to Piper again because I've played through with Piper a couple times, and I'm trying to do other companions.
Mm-hmm.
So I played through without Piper for the most part, and then I wanted to do more of the main story. So I ended up accidentally triggering this really corner case cutscene where I had Curie as my companion, and I walk into the Valentine Detective Agency, and Piper's there with Nick, and everybody starts talking. Like, everybody has a full 4-person conversation. That was, like, Piper and Nick talking about... I guess it's their way to, like, remember Piper, the character we put a lot of effort into. Do you remember that, how you walked away?
I don't think they put that much effort into her.
I don't think they did either, but it seems like... Because it's very clearly a cutscene that exists because... I had not picked up Piper at that point.
She doesn't really matter to the story, like, at all, either.
No, but,
I think she just got that really inconvenient thing of being the first person you see.
It actually develops that cutscene developed Piper more as a character than I had ever developed with playing with her as a companion, because you realize... When you travel with Piper as a companion, you get this sense that she's this very altruistic person, that she's very much like, yeah, anything for a story, but I'm ultimately here to help people. But when I went into this cutscene, the cutscene is, after I killed Kellogg, going back to get the part of the quest that leads you to the memory den, to, like, walk through his memories. So I'm between those two quests. And I go to the detective agency, and Piper is there trying to milk Nick for information about you. Because you wouldn't give her the interview before.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, Piper, you little fuck. And she's, like, being kind of obstinate about it, like...
That's how everyone else in the series views her.
Right. And you don't view her that way when she's your companion, because you're like, no, Piper is my companion, and therefore she's always right. But in this case, you see her like, oh no, she's a reporter, she's a bit skeevy.
My favorite bit of her character development is there's a mission where you have to break someone out of jail in Diamond City.
Yes, okay.
And if you take her with you...
Which I actually only experienced for the first time yesterday. I had never done that quest before.
I like taking her with you.
Uh-huh.
Because she's been in there. Like, a lot.
Yeah.
And so she has a lot of great things to say about it.
Uh-huh.
And, like, they don't like her being in there, like, at all, because no one in there fucking trusts her, because she's one of the most illegal people to have in that city.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, I feel like they did a really bad job of conveying to you.
Yeah.
Like, everybody tells you, yeah, Piper, she's the one who sneaks around and, like, is totally not on the up and up. But Piper obviously doesn't view herself that way, and so she never gives you that impression of her. Seeing it from the other side is really interesting, and I'm glad that cutscene exists. But it leads to my ultimate point. I think Fallout fucked up its marketing.
Why?
I think Fallout 4 was, like, marketed itself as it's an extension of, like, the Fallout you've come to know and love, but just expanded for a new generation.
Right.
And, so a lot of what they focused on was, like, your personal story content and the gunplay. And, like, building settlements and modding your weapons. Like, those were their big talking points. I think they should have pitched, there has never been in any Bethesda game as developed of companions as we have put together in Fallout 4.
And the only companion they ever did in the advertising was the least written companion.
Right.
It was fucking dog meat.
It was dog meat. But the thing is like, because I in the past when I've played, coming from Skyrim when I went into Fallout 4, I was like, companions are annoying little fucks who constantly get in the way and die all the time. So I don't care about companions. And I didn't have a companion the first time I played through Fallout 4. This time around, I've been like, look, I need a meat shield. So I'm just going to have a companion. But the thing is I've been doing a lot of different companions. When companions come across each other in the story, at any point, be that through the main story or through some side story, when companions interact, the dialogues get so much more interesting. Because suddenly, your character inherently doesn't have a lot of character to them, because no matter how you play, ultimately your dialogue choices were written for something generic.
Yeah.
So, those companions carry the character, but you only get those interactions when you bring companions together. But like I said, I had a 3-way conversation between Piper and Nick and Curie and me, so 4-way I guess, but I wasn't really huge part of that, and neither was Curie, to be fair, because she was just following me around, and that was mostly a Piper-Nick cutscene. But it gave me a lot more information about who Piper is as a character, which I never would have gotten otherwise, and it gave me more information about, like, who Nick is as a person, because the first thing Nick says to Piper is, like, I'm not gonna divulge a client's private information, even though you're a friend. Like, it doesn't matter, Piper, that's ridiculous.
I never caught them as friends.
They're really good friends.
Okay.
They actually have history together. They've traveled together before. Yeah, which is stuff that you don't necessarily know.
That's weird, because it doesn't seem like it when you go and get Nick with her.
Yeah, it does. Totally does. It seems like they know each other.
He basically doesn't respond to you until you're out of the cage. Or out of the building entirely. And then he just runs off.
Oh, well, yeah, but I'm thinking about when you go to the detective agency immediately after that to get his help. If you have Piper with you then, they, like, have a conversation.
But it seems weird that, like, if Piper's right next to you and lets him out and they're good friends and he's just like, I'm leaving.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, he does that to you, too, and that's kind of
But he doesn't know you.
Yeah.
But if, they, like, you'd expect, like, a, thanks for getting me out, toots.
Yeah, fair enough. Which, yeah. It's
That's
not...
my awful Nick Valentine
That's your
impression.
awful Nick Valentine impression.
It sounds more like a ghoul.
Toots. No, and I think that's fair to say that, maybe the development is a little spotty. Maybe it isn't a perfect game.
Yeah.
Maybe that's fair to say. There's definitely issues with it. But I'm enjoying it so much more now. And having a companion really affects the quests you do for the most part, especially whenever there's any talking.
Yeah.
The companions do a lot of your talking for you. Especially in major quests.
Yeah. There are a couple of companions I really want to travel with, but I know I never will because I don't agree with them, and that kind of bums me out.
Like who?
The guy in Sanctuary.
Guy in Sanctuary.
The guy with the laser rifle.
Preston Garvey.
I can't deal with him.
Really?
Particularly because of how he feels about Mama Murphy.
Oh. Well, I agree with him about
Mama Murphy is a magical being who runs on drugs. She saved your ass. She told you where Sanctuary is.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, his whole deal is the drugs are killing Mama Murphy. Like, that, gameplay-wise, it's hard to represent
She's like 80 years old and has been doing drugs since she was like 6.
Yeah.
She has lived way longer than most people in the Wasteland. She can enjoy her drugs. She's old now. She is in pain.
Also, do you know how Hancock became a ghoul?
I don't, but I want to do his story.
You do want to do his story?
Yes.
I won't tell you then. He tells you, like, right off the bat, the first one of your first dialogue options is like, hey, buddy, what's your deal? And he explains how he became a ghoul. His story is so fucking... It's, like, dumb, but in a Fallout way, where you're like, okay, yeah, that's good.
Alright.
It's good. Also, I realized there's a ton of content in Fallout 4 I've just never seen.
Yeah.
One of their big, set pieces was the, like, giant flying revolutionary warship.
Yeah, I love
Have you
that.
ever seen that?
I did that whole quest.
I have no... What quest is that?
Go that way.
What way? Where is it? Where is it?
Find a really tall building.
Like Tenpenny Tower?
No.
Or not Tenpenny.
Like, find a tall building to, like, look down, and then try and figure out where it is.
I'm pretty sure, is it the one that's crashed near the airport, right? I saw it in a vertibird when I did the Brotherhood of Steel quest. So I think I saw it, but it's just crashed.
Yeah.
What quest do you do to start that?
Go there.
Just go there?
Go there.
Okay. Because I'm looking for new quests, because it's becoming more and more apparent to me that there's a lot of content I've never seen.
Ooh. It might also be connected to Brotherhood of Steel?
Well, the Brotherhood of Steel already has a giant fuck-off airship. Why do they need a second one?
Because they're the Brotherhood of Steel.
They
need
which
all
is a
of
fair
them.
point. Yeah.
Isn't their whole thing is, we collect all of that shit?
I actually have a problem with the Brotherhood of Steel in this, in that they removed the whole, like, we are crusaders for the wise use of technology.
Yeah.
And they replaced it with we are crusaders against the Institute.
Someone posted a video, a couple days ago, talking about why Fallout 3 is bad. And I watched it all, whatever.
Yeah.
But they brought up a point that I had never seen before. When you go into the Enclave base, way late in the game, you can walk through it. Like, you get kind of a sandbox so you can just walk through and see everything. And there's a mess hall. And if you go into the mess hall and you walk down some stairs, you'll notice that the floor is grates. And underneath all these grates in the mess hall is just forks and knives underneath there. And it's the only time they humanitize the Enclave as being, like, people. And there's
like, people just drop forks and knives and they're like,
and they can't get them back. Yeah.
Why is that an argument for why the game's bad?
It's just something he noticed in the game.
Yeah. To me, that's kind of funny.
He pointed it out as, like, one of the few, like, personalized places in the
another
game.
reason that Nuka World is the best DLC for Fallout 4, it has my favorite, power armors.
Nope. The best power armor is in the endgame DLC for Fallout 3. So you know the DLC that lets you play after you've beaten the game?
Yeah.
There's a pair of power armor in that game that is a prototype. And you put it on and you realize almost immediately it was supposed to be a training armor for medics in the field. It talks to you.
Yeah, so did Stealth Suit X63 or whatever.
It's like Uncle Sam. It's super patriotic. It's always yelling at you to kill the Chinese. And if you ever try and sneak up on something, it yells, fill them out with lead.
And then you lose
And then you
stealth.
lose stealth.
To be fair, if you're trying to stealth around in power armor, fuck you a little bit. No, okay, so Far Harbor. And this was what I thought for a while was my favorite, power armor in the game. Far Harbor, they have this, like, cute thing where they're like, well, in New England, they don't drink Nuka-Cola. They drink their local New England brand called Vim. And you go to the Vim factory in Far Harbor, and inside there's Vim brand power armor.
Nice.
Which has, like, this really fun, like, it's like a pinup scene on the shoulders, like on the pauldrons, of, like, a lady on a beach drinking a soda. And then it's got, like, Vim across the chest or whatever. But in Nuka-Cola, or in Nuka World, there is a Nuka-Cola brand, which is better, because it's Nuka-Cola brand. But then, I found a better one, which I have yet to unlock, there's a place, I think it's called, like, the Nuka Galaxy or something.
Hmm.
It's, like, supposed to be, like, the world of tomorrow through the Nuka world. Because every theme park has the world of tomorrow.
Right.
So they did it for Nuka World. And in there, there's a side quest where you collect all of these things called star cores, which are basically, like, processors for this giant computer.
Okay.
And, you need, like, a certain number of them to unlock the area for the main quest to Nuka World. But if you collect every single one, it opens this, like, display case that has an old style power armor, like the one on the cover of Fallout 1.
Mm-hmm.
The one that's a lot more rounded.
Yeah.
But it's painted,
That's the Enclave armor, right?
It's, yeah, same model.
Okay.
But it's painted, like, this really wonderful color of, like, blue that slowly fades to black.
Oh.
That just looks amazing. And I want it so bad.
Soon.
I'm gonna have to look up where to find the other cores.
Just go crazy.
The thing is they're hidden all throughout Nuka World.
Oh, okay.
There's, most of them are hidden in that area, but there's 5 that are hidden in other parts of Nuka World.
Gotcha.
And I found, like, 3 of them. So there's, like, 2 left. And
Okay.
I have no idea where they are.
Yeah, that's understandable. That's like trying to do the Koroks in Legend of
There's
Zelda.
35 of them, and I'm missing 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So I need to just look it up, because I want that power armor. But, there's so many good power armors now.
That's good, because
that
I was
are
always
all added
disappointed
by DLC.
Power armor.
Yeah, they're all disappointing in Fallout 4, but I think they realized, like, nobody cares about, like, aside from the ability to fly, nobody cares about power armor beyond, like, I look like a fucking awesome badass in
I
power
didn't even
armor.
care for the ability to fly, because it's a new age Bethesda game. It's not built around it, so it's going to be glitchy as shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Nuka-Cola one is fully upgraded when you find it, which
That's
I
nice.
loved, because I was like, fuck upgrading. It's already all Mark 6 stuff. I don't think you can repaint it, which is probably fine, because you don't really want to. But what I wanted to do, I don't like that type of power armor, because it's one of the prototype, one of the really old, it's like the T51, and I like the T60 design, which is the one that the Brotherhood of Steel uses.
Gotcha.
And I wish I could put the paint on the Brotherhood of Steel one, and I can't, and it bothers me.
Just need to make that texture mod yourself.
I think it would be, I hate to say this because I'm not a modder or like a artist really in any way, but I think it would be fairly easy.
You just have to, like, reposition everything.
Reposition stuff. The helmet would probably be the hardest part, but luckily the helmet on all of the special armors that I've noticed is literally just a palette swap.
Mm-hmm.
It's not actually additional decals or anything. So it would just be a matter of, like, finding the spots and recoloring them. But ultimately, that's a lot of work, and I don't already have all the software that's required for that, because new age Bethesda games require quite a bit of software to mod their models.
Gotcha. You don't have to mod the model, just the texture.
They're packed together.
Mm.
The way that they do it now is they have their, like, proprietary model format, and then also proprietary texture format, which is baked into the model.
Which is how a lot of things do it. Not like the free ones, like FBX and stuff.
Yeah.
Alright. Well, we have a modding idea for anyone out there.
Yeah, please put the Nuka-Cola, please just make all of the alt mod skins for armor available on all the other armors. That'd be great.
Alright, I think...
Yeah, that's our
ran
time.
a little long.
Oh, whatever.
We will be back next week.
Yep.
And then
I
small break.
Yeah, I think you're going on holiday.
Yeah.
So.
We'll pre-record something.
Will we? Okay. Yeah,
we
can do that.
We'll pre-record 1 week and then have a small break.
Okay.
Alright, bye-bye.